Alright, hello and welcome everyone watching. This is Nash Riker, and you're watching Your Epic Destiny TV, where we introduce you to amazing people that are doing amazing things with their lives and creating positive change in the world. And we do this so that we can help to equip you to be able to discover and pursue your own epic destiny in your life more effectively, more efficiently, more confidently, and boldly. And we do that by helping you with just resources, tools, training, mindset, and confidence to be able to go out there and do that. So I have with us here today a really kick-ass guy that I can't wait to learn from and connect with here. His name is Tad Hargrave from marketingforhippies.com. All right, so let me just read real quick intro about Tad. He works with conscious entrepreneurs and green businesses, teaching them how to ethically attract new clients and customers, how to grow their business without feeling like they're selling their souls. All right, so if you've ever carried any baggage with this whole idea of marketing, it's been a struggle for you. You feel sleazy or slimy or hypey or whatever the case may be, and so you kind of resist it or avoid it as much as you can, then this will really help you out. We're going to dig into a few topics here that really we're going to just blow your mind and just open up a whole new world for you. So anyways, Tad, hey buddy, welcome. Thanks for being here. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful summer here in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm just in my home right now, and yeah, it's been a super good summer, so things are good.
Good deal, buddy. Well, listen, man, this is going to be fun, dude. I really am looking forward to connecting with you on some of these topics here. Why don't we go ahead and start by learning a little bit more about you, who you are, what you really do to help people, what your website is all about, Marketing for Hippies.
Sure. So I have this background of sort of business, marketing, and sales from a lot of the personal growth scene that I was involved in, but then also being an activist, going to anarchist protests, and eventually found a way to weave together in this business, Marketing for Hippies, where I help kinds of good businesses grow. And I found that so many of my friends who had these really beautiful ideals of starting good businesses really didn't understand the marketing piece and struggled with that and weren't getting enough clients, or I could see that they weren't going to. And so just out of all that, I started this business. And also I think also out of my pain of having learned a lot of stuff about sales, sort of very old school traditional sales. It was very pushy, very aggressive and kind of slimy. And I was young, I was like 18, so I just thought that was what you did and had to do. So then it took me like 10 years to kind of unpack that and learn a whole different way and a different philosophy and approach that felt really good for me, but also for the person I was talking to.
Nice. Rock on, man. So, I got a couple topics here, man, for us to cover. And before we started this here, we chatted about one topic as far as identifying your ideal client. And you mentioned 3 different types of clients. Let's go ahead and touch on that and get into that there, because I know it was on your heart. And so I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
So I actually just got this from a guy, Mark Manson. He's got a really interesting blog, and he talked, it's sort of my adaptation of his idea, but this idea, there are 3 kinds of clients. There are clients who are going to be automatically responsive to you, ones that will be unresponsive to you, and ones that will be neutral. So the responsive ones are the ones that you meet, and they're very curious about you. Oh, tell me more, I want to know, I want to hear more about what you do. They may or may not be ready to buy at that moment, but they're definitely leaning in. Unresponsive ones are the ones that lean out. They just don't seem that interested, or they're an outright no to what you're offering. And then in the middle, there's the neutral ones, and they're not leaning in, they're not leaning out. So they're definitely not disinterested. They're not, running away, but they're also not leaning in. And any potential client we come across is going to fit into one of those 3 categories. And in my experience, a lot of people have a huge number of neutral clients, and very few ones that are responsive, and very few that are actually unresponsive. It's like 10% here, 80% in the middle, 10% at the end.
Okay.
And I would personally rather see that neutral get eliminated. And I think the reason, because those neutral people don't buy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like the dreaded friend zone, you know? It's like if they sit neutral long enough, they just lean towards unresponsive. They lean towards not buying and signing up with you. And the reason I think most businesses have such a huge number of neutral people is there's a lack of vulnerability on the part of the business that we don't want to really maybe say how we really feel about things. We don't want to share our honest point of view. There's a real sort of withholding that happens because we don't want to offend anybody. We want to appeal to everybody. And because of that, we come across very neutral ourselves, which just gets a neutral response from other people. And, I was talking with a friend of mine the other night who's a nutritionist. And I said, if you're a nutritionist and you do a talk and you're like, I really believe in good nutrition. I think eating well is very important. And if you'd like to learn how to be healthier and eat well, then work with me. You're going to get a very neutral response from the audience because that's a very neutral, bland, tepid, unopinionated thing to say. It's hard for anyone to disagree with that very strongly, but it's also hard to just agree with that so strongly beyond like, yeah, that makes sense. But if you went up and you're like, I want to talk about nutrition, and I think a raw vegan diet is horseshit. I think we need to be eating a primal diet, including a lot of animal products and specifically organs from animals. I think we should be ingesting those raw. So I'm not saying that's what I believe, but if you went on stage, it's funny, and I said this to my friend who was vegan. She just like immediately had a 15-minute visceral response to that. And I was like, eventually I was like, let's time out. We were talking about marketing. I gave that as an example, and that's the response. And I would rather get that response. It's even in stand-up comedy. Louis C.K. talked about how he, when he first started, he was doing humor that was sort of very generic, very basic, and he'd get little laughs from the audience. And then he just decided to start telling the truth and be a little edgier. And he was getting some people horrified, but a lot of people just huge laughs. And so there's this idea of polarizing. We're not trying to polarize as in I'm going to, say something just to be controversial, but by being vulnerable and saying I'm going to actually just be open about how I feel about things and share it honestly, you will polarize people. People will they'll just lean in or out automatically when you share your honest opinion and feelings. And our point of view, our perspective, the kind of map that we have of how we want to take people from where they are to where they want to be, that is why people buy from us at the end of the day. I mean, the relevance comes from, are we helping them with a problem that they have, getting them a result they want? That's the relevance. But the credibility that am I going to buy from you 100% has to do with that map that we lay out, the system, the structure, the process. Gotcha. And I think a lot of people either haven't thought about what their system or process is, they really haven't clarified their point of view, or they're scared to say it. So if you've got a lot of neutral people, to me the first thing is like to start getting really honest, start sharing that, and you will absolutely turn more people off. But the people who are turned on will be turned on so much harder. Because if you're somebody who, sitting in that audience and this person's talking about primal diet, and you used to be vegan, but then you're not anymore, and you really are into primal diet, and you overhear that, you're going to be so enwrapped, and you're going to be like, wow, that's a naturopath that I would love to work with. And somebody who's a raw vegan would just, it's not going to be a fit. And I feel like this is the same friend I talked to last night. We were talking about why does marketing not feel good? And I think there's this idea in marketing that the goal is to get everybody to say yes. So you've got these responsive people, get them to say yes. Unresponsive people, or the neutral people, of course, get them to say yes. And unresponsive people, convince them to say yes.
Yes.
And it's just like, I'm trying to get everybody to say yes, and it's crazy because the unresponsive, that's hard. Maybe you could do it. Very difficult to get people to change their minds. And the unresponsive people, some of them may, but some of them may not. And so whenever there's this agenda to get people to say yes, to get people to buy, if that's the hidden agenda that we're smuggling into every conversation, every sales page, and then people feel that. And it doesn't feel great to feel like you are being maneuvered. Versus if the agenda is very explicit of just, let's figure out if this is a fit, then marketing, instead of becoming a sort of a pushing process to get people to say yes, it becomes a filtering process. Nice. Where we're just trying to be vulnerable and open and clear about, like, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm not good at, here's what this what it isn't, here's what it isn't, and we're being as clear as we can be and very respectful of the other person, knowing that they're going to make whatever choice they make, and whatever choice is fine. And the purpose of being clear and being vulnerable and being honest in marketing is not so that they'll say yes. It's so that if it's a fit, they'll say yes, and if it's not a fit, they'll say no. Because it's like, if you get a bunch of people who are unresponsive or neutral to say yes, and it's not a fit for them, what that means is they're not going to have a very good experience, because it's just not a fit. It's not the right timing for them, for whatever reason, and so they have a kind of subpar experience. They go to, let's say it's a workshop on how to use the Myers-Briggs personality typing system in your blogging. But they haven't even thought about any of the basics. They're not ready for it. They don't have a blog. They haven't even thought about their target market yet. None of this.
I got you.
And it's so far advanced. What it means is they're going to go through that weekend workshop. They'll probably find it very interesting, but they'll leave dissatisfied, a little disgruntled, like, wow, that was kind of a waste of my time because I'm not ready for it. That means they're going to tell their friends that they had a not that great experience, which means you've got bad word of mouth going. So it's like you can get all these people in initially and say yes, but ultimately it hurts you because of the back end of that bad word of mouth. But if you get people in who are a fit, and if only people come in are a fit, usually that means the workshops and experiences are going to be better in general because everyone participating is on the same page. But they're going to have a better experience because it is a fit, and that means they're going to tell their friends what a great experience they had, and you've got this upward spiral of word of mouth. So, yeah, that's my rant about that.
That's great, man. And it's so critically important. I've been learning a lot about that as far as the importance of identifying your ideal client, and not just because I keep this phrase keeps coming up that says if you're trying to market to everybody, you're really marketing to nobody. And anybody that's watching this, if your sales or client flow is not where you want it to be, where you know that it could be, there's a very good chance that this may have something to do with it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, almost all the time.
Almost all the time. That's huge, man. So huge. All right, well, great, man. I appreciate you sharing all about that. Very enlightening. Can we segue into this topic about hub marketing?
Yeah.
Because I really learned about that through your site, and I was just fascinated by that whole concept, and I can see it playing out on the internet and, in all different industries.
Right.
All across the board, and a lot of people are just kind of unaware of what's really going on and how to really get into that flow themselves. And so, yeah, can you touch on what hub marketing is and how it applies to us?
Yeah. So when we talk about marketing, one of the terms that I use is this idea of paths, and I got that term and the idea of hub marketing from a fellow in Seattle, Dominic Canterbury, and this idea of paths are like, if you have a business, you really want to make it very easy for people to find you. So whoever those people are who are a perfect fit, you want to make it so easy for them to come across you. So literally, like if you had a cabin in the woods, you'd want to have paths that led right to the front door of your cabin. Because you could tell people you had this cabin full of amazing things, and some people might get their machete out and hack through the underbrush to get to it. But a lot of them probably get lost even if they wanted to find it. So we just want to make it very sweet and easy and gentle for people to come with lots of signs pointing and all that. And so when we're talking about paths, this is where we get into the tactics and strategies. And so that's everything from writing, speaking, networking, hosting events, social media, ads, PR, all that kind of stuff, virtual presentations. Those are all paths. They're all ways that people could hear about you or come across you. They all work. I don't know if there's any that work better than others. So the first thing is just to make sure that you pick the paths that speak to you or that you're excited about. If you love writing, that's probably a great one. And if you hate public speaking, I'd probably avoid it. Okay. So they all work, but what makes all of them work better, and not just like 10%, 20% better, but like double, triple, 10 times as effective, is this idea of hub marketing. And so in marketing, I think there are three levels of marketing. There's a cold, warm, and a hot level. And the cold level is what I think most people think of when they think of marketing. And the cold level is just the cold approach, cold calls, brochures, business cards left in random places, billboards. It's usually very one-directional. There's no previous relationship established, and direct mail, 1% to 2% of people open it. Very low response rate on cold marketing. Costs a lot. So it's just not that effective. But warm marketing is where we, instead of trying to reach people just cold, like literally randomly walking up to somebody on the street, which it could be effective, but instead of that, we start, what kind of people do I want to reach? Who's the sort of ideal client, the niche or target market or chosen audience, however you want to say it. Who do you want to reach? Who's a fit for you? And then who's already connected to them? Where do they already hang out? And so this is this idea of hubs. And if you think of it like a wheel, and there are the spokes, and then there's the hub in the center where all the spokes connect. So it's like, what are those places or people where that whole community of people connect? So that could be events they go to, could be locations they frequent, people they know, media they pay attention to, groups that they're a part of. All those types of things would be examples of hubs. And because if you can become a part of those communities, hang out in those hubs, become familiar to people, if you can get some of those people who are key people in that community to endorse you, it's a huge difference in response. So you get a piece of junk mail, you probably just throw it out. You don't even open it. Versus if you get a letter from a friend, you'll open it 100% of the time. That's a really dramatic difference in response. So if you had somebody you respected who sent you a letter saying, hey, I've got a colleague, I want to encourage you to check them out, you'd be a lot more likely to pay attention to that than if you got virtually the same letter just from that person themselves. When I went to Ottawa years ago to do my first workshop, I had like 100 people sign up for 2 different day-long workshops. And in a town I'd never been. And I spent about 2 hours, 3 hours working on that because I had a local partner, a local hub, who was promoting it, and then she got like 25% cut on it or something, or $25 a person. So
nice.
It's just the most effective thing I've come across. To me, everything in marketing gets back to this idea of hub marketing. Yeah. Because, I have a lot of people on my list who've never bought anything from me, but they might buy something from somebody else. And vice versa. A lot of my colleagues are people who've never bought from them because they like their stuff, but they haven't found anything that's a fit, but they might find something that's a fit through what I offer. Yeah. So, I don't know, it's this kind of business ecosystem of mutual support and trying to make sure that people find what's a fit for them, and knowing that hubs are going to be probably the best way to do that. And then the hot level is where you become a hub yourself.
Yes.
At the hot level, you're hosting parties. You're the one that, you get to still do all the warm marketing, but now you're the one promoting other people to your folks. And the hot level to me is the ultimate level. That's where you're the trusted advisor. That's where you've got a really well-known brand. You're just when somebody's like, oh, I wish I could get help with this issue. They're like, oh, you talk to this person. They're the go-to person for that. And you can't buy that. That's, to have that, it's suddenly, when you're that whole community of people who are a good fit for you, when that whole community has adopted you and knows that you're the one to go to, it's so much less work. The cold levels, like you put in 10 units of effort, you get 1 unit of reward. The warm level, it's like a 1-to-1. The hot level, you put in 1 unit of effort, you get 10 units of reward. Wow. It takes time to build up to that, but
Yeah, time, and there's another note that I put down here from your site called generosity-based business, and it kind of really ties into that because from what I see is those that are delivering the most value, free value, like in the articles they write on their blog, really anything, videos they make, audios, interviews that they do, whatever the case may be, they're delivering massive value, and that helps all of that, right? And then that's when you start getting the endorsements, making the connections, and then start becoming a hub.
Yeah, I can't even remember where I came across that term, generosity-based business, but it makes so much sense to me, and it feels so good to me, this idea, being a business where you are giving for the joy of it. And there are just so many, it's funny, there's a lot of like altruistic reasons to do that. But there's so many more selfish reasons to do it. When you are generous, when you give a lot of samples and examples of what you do, you make it really safe for people to check you out and approach you. So if your website has a lot of case studies, some blog posts, I mean, mine is like over the top. There's like 530 blog posts. There's,
you get a lot on there.
there's like 3 hours of video, and it really doesn't need to be that much. I did it just because that was fun for me, and eventually I'll be turning some of that into info products. But I was like, well, in the meantime, I'm lazy, so let's just put it up and let it be there for people. But that does allow people to check you out and see if you're a fit. And it's interesting, even like in terms of this idea of hubs, I have people approach me all the time, and when people are when their website is kind of vague and fuzzy, I don't really get a sense of who they are, and they haven't been generous in sharing their point of view and opinion, because they're trying to sell to everybody, whatever. I just notice I'm like, I don't know if I want to work with this person because I don't even get what they're about. Versus when you generously share your point of view and your message and why, and you do that in a really clear way, I think it makes it just clear if you're going to be a fit for people. And I just think it's a good way to start off a relationship, is with generosity, is with giving. You know, it's like if you meet somebody at a networking event, and after 30 seconds of chatting, they're like, Nash, hey man, we should work together sometime. Hey, we should, maybe you want to hire me for this thing. And suddenly it goes into sales mode. It's just like, whoa, where'd it come from? Versus if they meet you and they're like, oh man, you know what, I've enjoyed this conversation. I want to mingle, meet some other people, but you know, I found this video that I think you would really love. Or like, I wrote this blog post a few months ago that was kind of about what we were talking about, and I totally want to send it to you. And they get your card, they make a note. That night, you get an email from them being like, Nash, so great to meet you, love chatting about that. Here's that blog post I was talking about, and if you like, I could add you to my email list. I've done that for years, and almost everyone's like, yes, please add me to your email list. And then you've gotten their permission to be added. You've started the relationship off with giving and being generous, and giving them a sample of what you do or how you see things, even if it's not something you wrote, but it kind of reflects how you see things. I just think that's the best way to start, as opposed to with taking and like, I just see so many people, like it moves into selling, it moves into almost trying to close people right away, and it feels really gross to be on the receiving end of that.
Wow, man, very well put. You know, it's all about being trusted, and when you deliver value like that, it's like immediate trust factor right there. You know, and the saying always comes to my mind too, that if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll automatically get what you want. And I think it's perfect for that. You know, even just like every little piece of content that we create, which our content is our marketing, and our marketing is our content, right? That delivers value in some way and helps somebody with a very specific need or problem or desire that they have. And when you can do that, you know, that immediately gets them interested in learning more about you and what else you can help them with, right? Is that pretty much how it works?
Well, I don't know if it gets them interested, but I would say it lets them know if it's a fit, and if it's a fit, they get more interested. You know, nice. Or if they're like, oh, sometimes the information just helps them realize this isn't a fit, which is great.
Right.
And the thing I would say about I think generally I agree with the idea of if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. The caveat I'd put on it is that doesn't work as well if you're going in with the agenda of giving those things to them to get something back.
Ah, gotcha.
Because I feel like then that just becomes the sneaky agenda again. And I felt it where people are like, hey, Tad, how can I help you? And I can feel them wanting to help me because I know there's a huge favor coming later.
I gotcha.
You know, that they're going to lord over me. And I just like, that doesn't feel that appealing. Versus when people are like, oh my God, I dig what you're up to, and I just want to help with no strings attached. I just want to support. That sort of unconditional generosity is just wonderful. And it's also, there's something about, in terms of who we work with, who we partner with, really trusting the vibe that we have with people. Because there's some people where it's like, you know, if you really don't feel a vibe with them, if you don't feel like a connection with them, some resonance with them, and then you go to give to them to help. I mean, I guess you can do that as a business, but then I would just be framing it as a straight up business transaction. Being like, look, I want to work with you. I want you to hire me. I think I can help you. I'm willing to do this for free to prove myself. Then that's clean. Then it's up front. but it can get, it can get really fuzzy and not feel good pretty quick.
That's true, man. Good distinction there, buddy. I'm glad you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't want any hidden agendas like that, because it will come through, right? It'll come through in everything you do. There's like an energetic, frequency going out or something that people can pick up on. So
it's this energetic, like Stuart Wilde wrote about it in this book called Silent Strength. And he's just talking about how, like, when people meet you, they like lean in, they lean back and all this. And he's like, and if your emotional energy is leaning on people, nobody wants to be leaned on. And also, if you go in and you're like leaning way back because of your own fears and you don't want to be vulnerable, or you're trying to be too cool or whatever, that doesn't create a real good connection. But when we're standing upright in ourselves, and when we're comfortable in our own skin, and we're not posturing and we're not collapsing, but we're really composed and present, and we're giving because we're just excited to give and support, usually I find, like, if I have a resonance with somebody, they probably actually have it with me too. And if I just give to them from like an open place, just because I'm like, I'm so happy to meet you, I'm so excited about who you are and what you're doing, I just want to support, that does create this real virtuous kind of upward spiral of giving and generosity to each other. And I have a number of colleagues where it's like that, where it's just like, we just love each other and we want to support each other. And there's some colleagues where it feels a bit more of like a business thing, which is fine. But I know I'm probably most generous with the ones where I feel the resonance. And I just think that also helps keep our heart healthy and keeps the vibes good in our business, because people can feel the love. They can feel that things are being done from that place.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, man. We covered some really good stuff here, buddy. I got several notes here, and I think anybody that watches this will have plenty of takeaways as far as enhancing their business, enhancing their marketing, like looking at things from a new fresh perspective. Marketing should not be something that is like a necessary evil, right?
Totally.
And it should be something that you feel really good about, and because you know it's going to provide value to other people. And so I just want to kind of open the floor to you to share any kind of parting words of wisdom, thoughts, anything that you think an entrepreneur watching this that just wants to get their message heard more, they want to be more effective in their marketing, they want to just take their business to the next level. Any parting words that you want to share, and then also where they can go find out more about you, or anything special you got going on you want to let them know about.
Sure. A few things. One, if you go to my website, marketingforhippies.com, there's just a ton of free stuff to check out.
Yeah.
And then there's a 200-page or 195-page ebook you can get. Sign up on my email list as well. I've got a program coming up October 1st called Niching for Hippies, and it really addresses this question of figuring out who's the perfect fit for you, who is your ideal client that you'd like to work with. So it's a 6-week program or 7-week program coming up in October. So if people are interested, they can check that out. And the thing I would say in parting is that the importance of taking time as an entrepreneur for reflection of what we want to give to the world, because it's easy to I've been really thinking about niching in a different way lately, that we tend to look at niching as like a just the who do we want to reach. But I feel like there's kind of two sides of the coin. There's the what do we want to offer and who would respond to that. And unless we know what we want to offer, what we want to be an expert in, what we want to give, it's very hard to even begin to talk about this question of who and niche. And I think what we want to offer is almost always beyond the modality of how we do it. I just today published a blog post from one of my colleagues, Rebecca Tracy, and she had this really interesting insight of that life coaching is not a business in and of itself. It's a tool. It's how you work with people. But the business is going to be, maybe I help people get over heartbreak or divorce, or I help people deal with bankruptcy, or I help people through health challenges, recovery from serious things to rebuild their life. That's a business, because a business only exists when we're solving a particular problem for a particular group of people and helping them get a particular result. So I really invite people to think about that. Like, what is it you want to give? And that might show up in terms of who you want to be working with. But if you're unclear about who is a perfect fit for you, first I'd get clear on what do you want to offer, and then ask yourself who would be into that. And you're probably going to make some guesses, and you'll probably be wrong on some of them. But it's the constant experimentation. It's like the success in business is not like this linear straight line. It's this dipsy-doodle for most of us of kind of figuring it all out, and it's a little messy, and that's okay. It's fine for it to be messy. So,
but that's like the core fundamental thing, though, that people should begin with is what they really want to offer to the world, and then do you feel the next step from there would be to develop a ideal client profile, like specifically what they are, like what one of the things that I've been learning is to really understand their inner dialogue that they're happening, and like enter the conversation that's already going on in their head, and why they would want that value that you have decided that you want to offer to the world, right? And how specifically it's going to benefit them. But one other thing too that I've really been learning about is to phrase things in their own words, and not necessarily in our words, because if you're an expert or whatever in your field, you're the professional, you can see the long-term vision for where you can take your clients to, right? And we have our own descriptions and ways of phrasing that, and when we put that on our website and in our marketing, it doesn't really connect with them, because that's not what they're thinking, like waking up in the morning thinking those kinds of things. So so that would be part of like coming up with the ideal client profile. You think that's important too?
It's huge. Once you figured out what you want to give, then it's just like, who are you going to give it to? And do they really want it? And do they want it in the form that you're thinking they want it in? Because sometimes they don't. Sometimes people think they have a marketing problem, but they really have a product or service problem. That the way they've packaged it or put it together just actually doesn't appeal to those people. So it's like, maybe you create a certain t-shirt design and you love it, and then you take it to the craft show or whatever that you think it's going to sell really well at, and it doesn't sell at all. But then you take it to a whole different kind of craft show or crowd or expo, and it sells out. And so sometimes you just have to put it in front of enough people and see who's going to respond to it. And I think you can make educated guesses that'll probably 75% of the time be right, but 25% of the time you'll be wrong. You won't know why. So sometimes we need to experiment, and sometimes you'll be like, I know what the group is. I know I want to serve these people with these gifts. Then there's this question of, okay, well, how do they want it? And what do they want specifically? And how do they articulate that? And
nice.
Putting it in a way that, because it's crazy to not do it that way, because otherwise, why would they buy it? Just to be nice to you, to like give you money because they feel sorry for you. People want to buy things that are a fit for them. So that's always this question of like, great, okay, I know what the problem is that you have. I know what the result is you want. Here's this tool I know that can really help you get there. Now, how do we put this together in a way that is super exciting and different and unique, and that they would look at and be like, yes, thank God, that's totally what I want, and that's the way I want it. Because when you can do that, Peter Drucker had this quote. He said the purpose of marketing is to make sales redundant. That you don't need to sell them. They just show up, they see it, the more they understand, the more they're like, damn, I need this. And then the sales process, you just they fill out the form and sign up, versus having to push or convince anybody. So
great, man. Hey, one last thing came to mind that I wanted to get your perspective on, because I know that another big hang-up a lot of people have is when on this topic of narrowing down your focus is, well, what if I don't have enough clients out there to serve if I do that? Or I don't want to turn people away. I don't want to have to say no to people and that kind of thing. Like, do you have any thoughts to go along with that?
Yeah, so many. I mean, first, there's a really important distinction to be made around like geography, which is crucial. Like if you work in a very small community of like 1,000 people, you may need to generalize more. There may not be enough people there to actually sustain a very narrow niche. You know, you're in a town of 1,000 people and you have this one particular niche. You might just be like, Larry, you're my niche. You have to hire me all the time. You just might not be able to sustain yourself. Versus if you work globally on the internet or whatever, you could niche ridiculously narrow. Nice. You know, almost to the point of the absurd, and probably there would still be enough people on the internet who could sustain you. So it is. I think it's a legit question. Like, are there going to be enough people to sustain me in what I do? Yeah, I feel like that is important, and the fear of turning people away. Again, we're not just like willy-nilly turning people away. We're saying turn people away that are not a fit for you, or not ready for you, or, you know, the people who are unresponsive. To me, it's just like bless and release. The people who are neutral, be a little more vulnerable, be a little more forthright and honest about how you see things, and see where they land. So to me, it's like, it's not that we'll turn them away; they'll turn themselves away because they see it's not a fit. And we just want to make it as clear and as easy as possible. But also, if somebody is treating you badly as a client, turn them away. If they clearly don't have the problem, you help. You turn them away. You let them go. And, you know, even if they sometimes want to work with you, it's like, look, it wouldn't be an integrity for me to take you on as a client because I really can't help you. And I know you like me and you think I can help you, and I've turned a lot of people away like that. So we're just talking about turning away people who aren't a fit or helping them turn themselves away, which feels really wonderful. You feel there's so much integrity in it when you do it. And it is important to look at, are there going to be enough of these people? That's one of the critical questions in figuring out your niche is like, yeah, are there enough? But if there are, then it's so much easier to get them to say yes and to be responsive than being like, well, I just, out of the general fear of turning people away and not having enough, I'm going to just try to reach everybody because I'm not limiting myself, as if limits were a bad thing. So I'm not going to limit myself. I'm going to try to reach everybody. In order to try to reach everybody, you end up having to be very generic and very neutral in your language. You have to talk about, yes, you know, I'm a life coach, and if you have any problems and you would like some results in your life, I'm your, you know, then it's like, what the hell? It's just, that's everybody. Yeah. So there's not going to be any really strong response. Gotcha. And so then, yeah, what you have at the end is people just being like, God, I'm not getting any traction. So many neutral people being like, oh, that's great. I'm glad you're wonderful. Awesome. But nobody buying. Versus if you really decide, here's what I want to work with. This is my point of view on it. This is my message. And you're really vulnerable and honest and clear about that, you get a very strong response from people. And from some people that will be like, oh God, no, gross, you know? Yeah. And from other people, it'll be like, thank God you're doing this, finally. And those people will just love working with you. And if there's enough of those, then that's just the best, you know?
Nice. Man, wonderful. So you pretty much recommend anybody that is expanding their business or promoting their business online and can pretty much, you know, work with anybody in the country or anybody in the world, those people should almost certainly really focus on going as narrow as they can, right?
I would say, I mean, as narrow as makes sense or feels comfortable. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, man, if you can reach the whole planet, there's, I don't know, hundreds of millions of people on the internet who speak your language. Yeah. So yeah, why not focus in? Because there's so many people out there who are life coaches, holistic practitioners, whatever. There's so many people doing it, and there will be more and more every year. So you know, it's like maybe in the beginning just life coach was enough because it was a new thing, and there were so few. Then you've got like relationship, health, money, spirituality coaches. So maybe that distinction was enough at a certain point. But then even within health, now you've got all sorts of different diets or health points of view that you could pick and specialize in. You could be like, I am a life coach who specializes in health with a focus on the GAPS diet. You know what I'm saying? It's like, nice. And then somebody's like, oh, finally somebody who helps me with this thing that I'm looking for help with. Perfect. You know, I'm a life coach focusing on money who focuses on saving for retirement or whatever. The clear it is, the more traction you're going to get.
That's great, man. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up here, but I love all of that, and just the last quick point here is that I've seen tons of the big-time experts, very well-known experts in their field, started very, very narrow, and then as they built their practice up or their business up, and they were self-sustaining, then they're able to like branch out, and become more broad and more effective with a bigger audience. So. If you choose narrow right now, it in no way is going to pigeonhole you into that like forever, right?
No.
Yeah, your business can evolve and grow along the way. So, kick ass, man. Hey, Tad, I really appreciate the time, brother. I know this is going to really, really help people that are watching it, and I'm going to spread the word and get as many eyeballs onto this video as possible. So, man, thank you very much, and I'm going to link to your website and your free course or your ebook it's right there on your site, right there in the sidebar, so it'd be very easy for them to find that. And are you doing any one-on-one coaching anymore these days that you want to mention, or?
Yeah, people, if they go to my website under the coaching tab, or products and services, they can find more info on that.
Nice. Okay, man. Well, cool, buddy. Hey, thanks again, Tad, and for everybody watching this, hey, go out there, pursue your epic destiny. Take what you learned here and just go be on fire about your marketing with your authentic voice coming out. And so, anyways, hey, brother, peace to you, man. And I will connect with you again very soon. So, love and light, everyone. See you.
Bye.